Tessa, the protagonist of this love tale, is on her first day at a brand new college that is located rather far away. She will be dropped off to her new college dorm by her mother and boyfriend. She meets two females there by the names of Steph and Tristan. These females are highly chatty and extroverted. Tessa chases her mother as she leaves after smelling marijuana, pleading with her not to cause a disturbance. She tells me that she will keep her word on this one. Before she graduates from college, her mother wishes her well and is proud of her. After a sweet kiss, Tessa's boyfriend also departs. When Tessa returns to her room, Steph queries whether she alarmed her mother. She says that although she thinks her brother is cute, he is actually her lover. Then Steph immediately departs. The following morning, she wakes up and eagerly makes her way to class, where she meets a man named Landon, who is majoring in English as opposed to Tessa's degree in economics. She seemed fired up and motivated for her courses. After a relaxing bath, she returns to her dorm room and discovers a man quietly reading a book inside. He advises her not to flatten herself since he is not looking after her request to have him depart after she was startled to see him. When Steph gets there, she recognizes her pal. Steph asks her to attend the party with them, but the man is confident she won't. He spoils the finish of the Great Gatsby novel she was reading by telling her before he leaves. She spotted the same guy again while studying in the library the next day. She feels incredibly uncomfortable as they briefly exchange glances. Steph approaches her afterward and invites her to a party that evening. She resolves to make a few changes even though she is adamant about staying home. Steph criticizes Tessa's choice of attire as being a little too formal. They have arrived to the party, where everyone is enjoying themselves and drinking. Later, Steph introduces Tessa to all of her pals. They invite her to take a sip of water there. She hesitates at first but eventually downs a shot after one of the other girls in the group makes a harsh comment about her. They opt to participate in a game of truth or dare. Tessa decides on truth when asked where her most outrageous romantic event occurred. She makes the decision to forego the question and instead daring. She is finished with the game and goes away when the group's bad man approaches and asks if she wants to do it. She calls her boyfriend, but after receiving a verbal reprimand from him for drinking, she hangs up. Later, she enters a vacant storage space and peers at the books. The nasty man approaches her once more and inquires about her search. Tessa worries that he could be intoxicated, but he reassures her that, like her, he doesn't drink. He holds her hand and tells her that this is his room. They were almost about to kiss when he asked whether their bet was still good. However, she left after stating she couldn't. She receives texts from her lover, Noah. She returns to class the next day, when she seats next to Landon, the same man. However, it turns out that the party guest was also a newbie by the name of Hardin Scott. When a question on a romantic novel is posed by the lecturer, he believes that everyone is hardwired to desire and that love is merely a transaction. Tessa, however, refutes him and claims that the ladies in the book rejected the man because they were mistreated in the past, which is very astounding. After about a minute of this, Hardin joins her outside the class, tells her it was thrilling, and then he walks away. She begins to criticize Landon for being so haughty. She is shocked to learn that Hardin is connected to Landon right then. They seldom get along since his mother is dating Hardin's father. Steph begs Tessa to get a tattoo as she is getting one at night. She admits that Noah was the only man she had ever dated, and she says that her mother believes they will wed in the future. She moves her face away from Steph as she enjoys some romantic moments with her girl before going to bed. She is grabbing a coffee the following day when Hardin approaches her. Since Steph is a common acquaintance, he wants to make a fresh start and become friends with her. She wants to keep her distance, but Hardin wants to show her a place. She almost turned around and left, but she chose to stick with Hardin. They travel in his automobile to a location that appears to be a rainforest a few miles distant. They proceed a short distance when Tessa notices a huge lake. He tells her that this is his favorite location and invites her to go swimming. He strips naked and plunges into the sea. She accepts his t-shirt as he forcefully enters the sea. She wears it, and he turns his head away. He eases her into the water before beginning to enjoy it. He reveals himself when Tessa asks him about the person he loves the most. When he inquires about her lover, he learns that he is a high schooler who adores her. He forces her to hold her breath while demonstrating how to be silent. She caught Hardin's attention as if she were some sort of stolen gem he had discovered. She asks if he wants to be her friend, but he responds that they can never be friends before they begin to kiss passionately. He then turns his eyes away once again to allow her to shift, but Tessa instead touches him as they begin to exchange passionate glances. Her breathing was becoming more rapid with each touch she felt. Later, they enter a pub together. He chooses not to answer Tessa's query regarding his prior life. Because of the event in class, she asks him why he doesn't believe in love. He replies that he doesn't believe in everything he says, which makes Tessa giggle. Hardin begins to act strangely when Steph and another of his friends join them in the middle of the conversation. Even though Tessa was going to inform his boyfriend about them, he subsequently admits to Tessa that everything was enjoyable but that he does not date. After she goes, Hardin has a dissatisfied expression. In the morning, she returns to her dorm and finds Hardin seated next to her. However, this was only a dream. The following day, she discovers her lover outside holding flowers. She found it hard to believe he was there. At a party next night, Steph and her friends decide to play the suck and blow game, and Tessa and Noah also attend. Tessa does not participate when it is her time, which causes Noah and her to act a little protectively, and Hardin gets in the middle and starts to fight. Hardin immediately departs. Tessa was watching a movie with Noah later that night, but she is worried about something. She receives a call from Landon late at night and rushes to see her. She learns that Landon and Hardin got into a fight, and Hardin mentioned her name as well, so she might be able to assist Landon. She learns that he is furious about his mother living in a slum back in London while his father marries Landon's mother. When Tessa tries to pick up the glass after it has been broken, she is hurt. He apologizes for how he treated her before and leads her to his room. Tessa agrees with Hardin's assessment that he is a disaster, and she also believes that she is a mess. When they both see this, they begin to have brief amorous moments. She ended up spending the entire night sleeping in his room as a result of a chain of events. She approaches Noah, who is visibly concerned about her. He immediately notices Hardin standing there and realizes what is actually happening. He immediately departs from the area. She is upset as she makes her way back to her dorm and is seen by Molly. Tessa perceives the loss of a close friend. She was experiencing something that was difficult to put into words. She tried to communicate to Noah while feeling quite depressed during her lessons. She decides to chat to Hardin after she sees him outside one day. He was surprised to see her. She began to explain how, when she was just 10 years old, her father left the family. When her mother was caring for her, Noah was there to assist her since she was unable to handle the anguish. She says that although Noah is her best friend, he really is so much more. Hardin once forces Tessa to stay until the library shuts. She sits on his lap as he reads a book. When security discovers them and pursues them, they laugh and flee. Both of them were going to remember this as a special occasion. Their friends had begun to notice their relationship. Hardin came inside and praised her beauty without even waiting for her lesson to start. Tessa once observed Hardin jotting something down in the notepad. She wants to see it, but he frequently makes fun of her. They soon begin to have amorous moments. When her mother unexpectedly enters the door, she discovers them exposed. This was enough to really enrage her. She begins to reproach her roommate. Because of a male, she believes Tessa will destroy her life. Tessa gets into an argument with her mother and declares that she will live her life independently rather than letting her influence her. Her mother is concerned and distressed by this. She says before she goes that he would cut her off and crush her heart. When she subsequently discusses this with Landon, he perceives Hardin as complex. He advised her to use caution. Tessa is taken to a residence owned by a friend of Hardin's dad, who is currently living in Italy. Hardin suggests that they cohabitate at this location. Her mother interrupts her, forcing Hardin to take action. They both relocate here and begin to live contentedly together. They converse frequently, laugh, and savor the little things. They frequently travel together. Hardin still finds it hard to accept that she is now his property. He feels unworthy of her, but Tessa is confident that nothing will alter her feelings for him. Later, they attend the reception for Hardin and Landon's parents. Both meet Landon's father and mother, Karen. They are happy to get to know Tessa. Hardin becomes quite angry when he sees his father with a different lady, and Tessa attempts to soothe him. Father Hardin begins to address the audience with a speech. He informs Tessa that this is not the father he grew up with despite the fact that he is praising Hardin. Some things never change despite the fact that he has changed. He begins to describe a situation. His father makes the wrong friends one day at the local tavern. He was powerless to stop them from harming his true mother when they returned for the retaliation and went to his residence. They later begin to dance together while maintaining eye contact. Tessa chooses to enjoy a romantic moment as they enter a room. Molly starts to interrogate Tessa about her boyfriend after having an envious glance at her one day. Tessa barely divulges a few details about Hardin despite her request for further information. Tessa becomes quite skeptical of Hardin when Molly texts Hardin's phone later. He tells him to believe him and that there is nothing to conceal when she questions what he is keeping from him. She wants Hardin to call because she is worried. Her buddy texts her to meet at the Videodrome and asks her to tell him about Hardin. Jade, who she meets as she sits in the car, informs her that he could be at Blind Bob. She discovers Steph and her pals there. She admits that she had been living off campus with Hardin. In spite of what she believes, Molly admits that something is happening. She plays her a clip from the day they played their first round of Truth or Dare. A challenge to make Hardin fall in love with her had been issued. He would just turn it off when this has occurred. She is completely surprised and unable to comprehend what she is seeing. She is informed by him that this is untrue. All of it had happened before, and his emotions were genuine. She doesn't waste any more time and departs. Tessa is currently experiencing the world's worst loneliness. She greets her mother as she returns to her home, and they hug. She does not want to discuss what actually occurred, but she was present to express her regret. Tessa also expressed her affection for her before leaving to see Noah, who was perplexed as to her presence. She says she never intended to harm him. They began to giggle when he said he was okay with it. Tessa returns to the university and begins to compose an email to alter her economics major to English. Hardin, who was struggling to cope with their separation, broke down in tears as he thought about all the times they had spent together. She later receives an invitation to an interview for her internship at Vance Publishing. Tessa was seated in a lecture when the teacher afterwards handed her an envelope. She said that Hardin had given her the item, explaining that it had been more for Tessa than for her. Tessa notices that Hardin had been sketching drawings of her in his notepad. She also reads some writing by Hardin in which he claims that, up until he met Elizabeth Bennet, despite reading hundreds of books, he solely believed love to be fiction. He never imagined that he could clasp her hands, be completely absorbed by her, and follow her out of the shadows. Finally, he begs for pardon. She once inquired about his all-time favorite person. The movie ends here when he makes it clear that it's Tessa.